Hey there, it's Binky back again today with another item about American culture that you may be curious about. It's kind of an interesting topic for me just because I live in New York City now. I'm originally from the West Coast, and there's a big difference in cultural aspects between the two places, which I'll probably do a video on eventually because the East Coast is very different than the West Coast, let me tell you. Very different. So it's kind of funny when people visit the US, they're like, oh, I went to New York City and Americans are kind of a-holes. And it's like, no, you went to one city in the US and that's not how everyone behaves. And things change drastically from region to region and even state to state and even across state, with in different areas and counties within the state. So it's like that in any country. The US isn't immune to that. But New York City is its very own entity and it's very special. I mean, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But the thing that I want to talk about is personal space. Because a lot of people who come to visit the US or come to live in the US may be shocked by how Americans deal with personal space. I've traveled pretty extensively, and I think people's opinions of Americans vary for different things. But one of the things is that Americans are very friendly, a lot of them. A lot of people say we're almost like kind of childlike in the way that we deal with things when we travel overseas because we're very curious. We're very friendly people for the most part. There's jerks in every culture, unfortunately, ruining it for everyone. But we tend to be a little bit more, I guess, expressive and a little bit more friendly than maybe some other cultures, whether that be good or bad to people. But because of that, um, what's weird is that you have that versus the personal space issue. So we're friendly people, or we come across that way, and then if somebody gets in our space, we're like, yeah, because we as Americans need a lot of personal space, which is kind of strange to other people because I've dealt with certain, especially living in New York City, you deal with all cultures, and you'll deal with like Asian cultures, especially like Chinese, where the Chinese are crammed into their country. There's a lot of people there. So when you're on the subway or you're in a subway station that's predominantly Asian, especially Chinese, the spatial issues become like a cultural clash almost because the Americans are like, I need some space, and then you have the Chinese who are like, they don't care about space. They just it's not, there is no space. So they're just like, I'm going to get into your space. I've been on the subway where I was riding once and I sat into a seat and the woman was eyeing it and she ended up sitting on my lap for like half a stop. And then she realized I can't sit here. I guess I didn't get the seat she did. And then she jumped off the subway at the next stop to catch the next train after sitting on my lap for half the ride. It was very odd. That would never happen. An American would be apologizing and going, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. We don't really do that. I guess the natural like space for most Americans is 1.5 feet to 4 feet is what we prefer when we're dealing with people. We just, there's definitely this personal space bubble. Some people's are smaller and some people's are larger. Mine's actually larger, I think, because I was raised on the West Coast where there was more land and open areas, and it makes me nervous if somebody gets into my personal space bubble. I call it bursting my bubble because it freaks me out. And the whole time somebody gets into that space, my amygdala just boom flares up, and that deals with emotional memories and anxiety. That's the part of your brain that does, and it actually flares up, and I'm like, the whole time I'm thinking about how do I get this person out of my space. So I'll slowly start backing up and going, yeah, like I'm listening to you, and frankly, I'm not. It's like 50-50. I'm hearing parts of the conversation, but I'm in panic mode and I'm trying to back out of the situation because it makes me so uncomfortable. I don't know why. It's just kind of how it is. I think part of it is that it's just our society is very individualistic versus other cultures which may be more about being collectivist and working together as a team with society and your neighbors and things, which is sad because the US has kind of lost that with the larger cities and the culture in general. And so I think it's this idea and need for independence and making your own way and being an individual. It's very individual in the US. Everybody's their own person and I'm different, damn it. And because of that, I think it's a social thing where people just need more space, which may be odd to somebody visiting. Another thing is if you don't really know somebody in the US and you get in the personal space, and I've had this happen when I've gone to other countries where I've met somebody and then they speak to you for like 20 minutes, half an hour, they'll touch you. And you're like, huh, as an American, you don't. There's always exceptions. Please understand there's always exceptions, but a lot of Americans will just be going, and focusing in on that because it's freaking them out. I know it freaks me out, and I'm just thinking, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? You're bursting my personal space bubble. It's almost like a violation, which is just kind of crazy to a lot of people. I guess it wouldn't make sense, but it's just the way it is here. I think we're one of the cultures in the world that actually needs more space. I know with certain Latin cultures, or if you go to like certain countries in the Middle East, it's not the same. They'll get right in your face. It's like, oh, it's just normal. You're smelling each other's breakfast. That's cool, and it's just a more intimate feel. And it's just different. I've been in countries where people do get in your space and it's just very natural and nobody thinks twice about it. And it's just a cultural thing and it's not right or wrong. It's just if you're coming to the US, know that there is a personal space issue, and especially in New York City, because there is no space. You have all these millions of people crammed into the small space, especially on the subways. What happens is you just stand on the subway and you act like it's not happening. You just sit there and you act like this isn't happening. There's 5 billion people crammed in here. I can feel somebody up against my leg. Somebody's hand keeps slipping on the pole onto my hand. And you're just like, this isn't happening. So that's why nobody makes eye contact or they just listen to their iPods. It's almost like you're escaping your body to escape the reality of the disgusting subway and the smelly people. And the people who are personal space hogs because they have no manners. It's absolutely hell on earth. But because of that, people will find a way, even if they don't have the personal space, to create personal space, and that's to basically kind of act like you're not there. Don't make eye contact. It's kind of cold to a lot of people, but it's kind of a way to keep yourself sane. It's not so much like that on the West Coast, but people definitely in this country need their space. They want their space. It's an American culture thing, and it's not to be rude. It's just the way that we are. It's kind of just one of our identity things that makes our culture American, and it's neither good nor bad. But I don't really know, and I did some research, and there's not really a lot of research for why that is. There's many different reasons. So I don't know. Maybe you have an opinion of why. Maybe you'd like to explain what goes on in your country. I would love to hear the different opinions because I love hearing stuff like that. That's what makes us all unique and wonderful. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a better idea of how it works and personal space in the US. And until next time, have a good one. Bye.